All right, the Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting for Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025 is hereby called to order. We're going to have the opening prayer with Reverend James Barker, pastor of Holy Hills Baptist Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by board member Brian Granger. Would you please stand?
Let us go before the Lord. Heavenly Father, we thank you, we praise you, we give you glory and honor. We ask you to continue to just look down upon us and smile from heaven, oh God, and just ask you to bless each and every one that's here. Give them wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to do the things that need to be done in the way that will give you glory, Heavenly Father, and to guide this city, oh God, in the way that it should be guided, that everyone, Heavenly Father, can be righteously in what they're doing, oh God. And we ask you to just bless above anything we could ask a thing, because you are the one that ultimately, God, know what tomorrow holds. And we give you the praise and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
You'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Barker, and happy anniversary to you and your lovely bride.
Right now, gentlemen.
All right, take her somewhere nice, all right? All right, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Hughes.
Here.
Board Member Lucas.
Present.
Board Member Granger.
Present.
My understanding, Board Member Street will not be here.
That is correct, ma'am.
And Chairman Branch.
Here, present.
All right, we have a quorum. Board members, item number 4 is the approval of the meeting minutes from the meeting of May 6, 2025. Those minutes are in your packets, and we would entertain a motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Hughes.
Yes.
Board Member Lucas.
Yes.
Board Member Granger.
Yes.
Chairman Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, item number 5 is any additions, deletions, or modifications to this evening's agenda. Are there any modifications? I do not believe there are any from staff, any from any of the board members.
I have one.
All right, Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
I'd like to discuss virtual workshops, non-voting, as soon as possible for collaboration and better guidelines for staff and ideas.
All right.
Specifically for CRA?
Yes.
Right.
Or
Well,
combo.
That would, if adopted, that would be item number 13, and then motion to adjourn would become item number 14. So there is a motion to add that. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on adding the virtual workshops as an item of discussion this evening? All right, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Hughes.
Yes.
Board Member Lucas.
Yes.
Board Member Granger.
Yes.
Chairman Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
And
Any other additions, deletions, or modifications to this evening's agenda?
Yes, I'd like to add a motion to add a discussion on a potential letter to the TDC as part of the CRA board in support of the St. Andrews, Drews
Hall.
Hall. Thank you.
Got it? All right, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, I'd show that would be item number 14 if adopted, and then the motion to adjourn would become item number 15. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor?
One question, Brian, you want the letter to come from this CRA to
The TDC.
TDC? Okay. Yeah.
All right, no further discussion. Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Hughes.
Yes.
Board Member Lucas.
Yes.
Board Member Granger.
Yes.
Chairman Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, any other additions, deletions, or modifications to this evening's agenda? All right, those 2 items were added unanimously. Moving on now to audience participation, item number 6. Any issue related to the Panama City CRA's authority, and remarks will be limited to 3 minutes. Please come to the podium and give your first and last name and address.
Michelle Bryant, 409 East 9th Street. See, I'm pulling the mic. Just seems like I'm loud. Okay. Welcome to the new chairman and committee members to the CRA board. Kind of what I spoke on at the city commissioner meeting, which was sent back here, which is regarding the Glenwood property project of 15th Street and MLK. As shared previously, stated back in 2017, this property was purchased. As you know, many residents didn't have anywhere to go. The plan was to make this property a modest, affordable home area area so that people could aspire to home ownership rather than rentals, and of course, adding some commercial space. In 2012, the CRA did a study, and building homes was the primary result of wanting to keep the area historical and keeping the feel of the community. Of course, now we are 13 years past those charrettes, those conversations, as well as the Dover Coal that was approved for the Glenwood area May of 2021. So while we are entertaining a conversation with an organization or developer that is looking to develop that area, I would ask in this developer and any other developer's case that those desires be taken in consideration as you move forward in building up what will be historical for the Glenwood area. So to sum all that up, what I'm saying is whomever you choose to look at, let's make sure and part of their design is homes versus apartments, small business versus big box businesses, as well as we would absolutely love to see a grocery store in the Glenwood area, but more importantly for this particular project, bringing back the homes that Dr. Daffin and so many were looking forward to being rebuilt in that area. My last thing on the agenda that I wanted to mention is no longer on my paper here. Oh, thank you to the CRA for the upgrades and the additions that they'll be making at Henry Davis Park. We met there this morning with people from all over the district. It wasn't just Glenwood, it was the Cove, it was St. Andrews. We had a really good time, and when I shared the upcoming updates, they all requested those updates for all parks in Bay County, and they want a garden as well, so I thought I'd share. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Congratulations to the newly elected persons. What are you laughing at me? Don't start my time.
He doesn't control the time at this meeting.
Good afternoon. Brenda Lewis Williams, 1007 North Center Avenue, Panama City, Florida, 32401. I'm coming in reference to the letter about A.D. Harris and its ineligibility. I believe that is erroneous, given that there are several items of criteria to determine that. A.D. Harris, formerly Glenwood Elementary School, formerly Rosenwald, I believe, High School. And those schools were established during Jim Crow. And after my conversation with I don't remember what his name is, but I have it to send an email to send to each and every one of you. What he said to me that there's a process that we have to go through that process, which has not been established. On March 1, 2024 at 4 p.m., Commissioner Lucas, Michelle Bryant, Tony Bostic, Jared Jones, and myself met, and Commissioner Lucas stated that she would do everything in her power to secure that designation. Thus far, that has not been done. You may not remember it that way, but I do, and I can't go with intent. I can only go with what you say. So my request is that this item be tabled until we get pure clarification from the state of Florida historical group to determine whether this is to be designated as such. So I request that this be tabled. And then in reference to the development between Carver, Roosevelt, and Washington, I believe there is a breach of contract in that. Mr. Zimmerman may not agree with me. There has been conveyance, if you will, because the Daffins afforded the city $200,000 when they purchased that property. And that may be a stretch, but I'm going to say it anyway. There has been conveyance of $200,000 which was afforded the city because it was valued at $600,000 and it was purchased for $400,000. So, to me, any development on that property should be a moot issue until the verbal contract with Doc Daffin is clarified. A verbal contract is just as good as a written contract. At least that's what I learned in business law in college. So, and I don't think they've changed those laws at this time. And there was conveyance. That $200,000 was conveyance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis Williams. Any other public comment?
Good afternoon. Nancy Hudson, 1701 Mound Avenue, Panama City.
Hey, Nancy.
And again, yes, congratulations, and glad y'all are here. I just wanted to provide you with a couple of pieces of information in your discussion with St. Andrew's School, Drews Hall. Why is that relevant to CRA business? And I will tell you a couple of things. One is the original 1989 CRA plan and subsequent updates all refer to revitalize this community using a historic center strategy. So use the history to revitalize this neighborhood, this CRA. Second thing is this CRA board, not you all same people, but this CRA paid for half of the cost of the historic marker when the building was put on the National Register. Those, I think, are at about $3,000 now. It's $2,500 back then, and the CRA paid half that cost for that sign, and the rest was a grant from the state. So, just wanted to give y'all that information.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson.
You look like you had a question, Mr. Hughes.
No, just
Okay,
thank you.
okay.
He's so
Might not
knowledge.
question a little.
Yeah.
You got my number.
Yeah. Yep, that item's on the agenda. So are there any other public comments in regards to tonight's agenda or any business of the CRA? All right, seeing none, audience participation is hereby closed. So all of the comments, and I'll just quickly skim over them, they're all part of the agenda tonight, so they'll be discussed, and I'll remind the board of the comments that were received during that time. But Ms. Bryant spoke about the 15th Street and MLK project, item number 10, and expressed appreciation for Henry Davis Park and the investments that were being made. Ms. Lewis Williams spoke about item number 9, disagrees with the memo and the premise. And then also spoke about number 10 and a potential breach of contract. And then Ms. Hudson spoke about the new item number 14 in Drews Hall and just gave some background in regards to that. So I do know that Board Member Lucas, you were addressed during the comments. I don't know if you'd like to respond to that, ma'am?
Oh, yes, I was.
Okay.
So yes, I do recall that meeting with the Glenwood Revitalization Project leadership, Ms. Brenda Lewis Williams, Ms. Michelle Bryant, and Mr. Tony Bostic. And I offered to support that effort. And that, in my mind, support meaning the effort coming from the community to do that. And would welcome the opportunity to sit down and discuss that and see where we can have a meeting of the minds, or we can continue to meet like this. It's your preference.
All right. Any other board members wish to make comments at this time? All right, moving on. Item number 7 is presentation of the A.D. Harris Management Agreement Progress Report. Ms. Pilson?
Good evening. I do have a slide presentation. I don't know if y'all, okay, it is showing there, and
If you'll just give your name and title, just
Sure,
for the
I
record.
will.
Thank you, ma'am.
yes, so my name is Donna Pilson. I'm the Executive Director of Rebuild Bay County, Inc. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and I thank you for the opportunity to provide this update on behalf of Rebuild Bay County, Inc., our management, regarding our management of the A.D. Harris Learning Village. So I did want to provide just a little bit of history within my time limit, since we do have some new folks to the board. In January 2024, the CRA asked for an organization that could assume management responsibility for the facility for something that will be productive for the community and in line with the community plans that were developed in years past. And those were provided as part of the RFP package that was given to that was put out there. Our vision for Rebuild Bay County, what we proposed was for a community resilience center that will be a hub of services on site and access to services that the community could count on in blue skies and in gray skies. Some of the goals that we were looking at was to stabilize and maintain the facility. At the time, it was our understanding that the facility was operating in the red. We were looking at a long-term plan for productive use, the facility, productive community use. We wanted to support such programming like workforce development, education, and resilience activities, identify funding sources to support sustainable operations, look at partnerships, strategic partnerships toward community resilience. With that, we considered and continue to consider facility projects and programming for that facility. Since assuming management responsibility, we've reviewed the facility's condition and then started considering what projects we could do to open up and get the spaces to where they would be suitable for programs that we envisioned, with the priority project being opening up the kitchen and cafeteria. That we deemed that as the most versatile space, so that that's one that we wanted to look at first. Immediate improvements and upgrades have included, and I have a whole list of projects that we're looking at, but they've included some outdoor cleanup, opening up some of the storage and meeting rooms that we have, and then transforming the kitchen and cafeteria. Some of the desired and planned programming, we assumed leases of the tenants that provide a variety of services, and in some cases, we've expanded those services and then added a couple more tenants where it made sense. And then we've taken steps to prepare for other programming, considering funding opportunities and strategic partnerships as the spaces are ready and as it makes sense. Already, we've hosted several community events through partnerships with other organizations, and as we open up space, and we expect to be able to do more. Again, we looked at those given activities and events that were proposed, and looked at those that would make sense at the time based off the spaces that we were able to open up. We continue some of the challenges that we've faced since being on site. We continue to see a steady flow of homeless population come through the facility. There was initial uptick following the warming center operations in January, but we've been able to manage that. This is not a huge problem, but it does force us to consider our operations and make plans for it. There have been some delayed maintenance issues, and we expect that we'll continue to see those as we continue to open up space for use. Even with the challenges that we've seen, our relationship with the city departments, particularly the CRA staff, has been absolutely amazing, and we appreciate that. We've been able to work through the issues as they come up and expect to continue to do so. So thank you to the staff for that. So I'd like to end on a good note. So here's some good news. On our cafeteria kitchen project, this year alone, we've had nearly 100 volunteers come in and give over 800 hours of labor, more than $25,000 value to our efforts. To date, we've increased revenue by $3,200 a month and decreased expenses by nearly $1,000 a month. This has allowed us to start looking at how we can expend funds on projects like installing security cameras throughout the facility, which we've been able to do. Some other accomplishments, we're looking forward to the HRP funds for projects like paving the parking lot, exterior lighting, and interior fencing. Since March, we've been executing a grant with United Way for community resilience efforts from the center. Just recently, and not formally announced, we have received a significant donation that will allow us to replace the walk-in freezer, a freezer that hasn't been operational in so long that it was rotting from the inside out and had vines growing out of it. We're opening up more spaces for more programming. Some activities include summer STEM camp, health fair, and community resilience workshops. And then as part of the grant effort with United Way, we've begun the work of establishing a community organizations active in disasters, which will provide that structure and formal operational plan for organizations working together before, during, and after disasters, much of which can be done from A.D. Harris. And lastly, the Rebuild Bay Board of Directors has started on a strategic plan for the center that will formally document the goals and objectives of the center and allow the staff to better plan facility upgrades and programming for the near and far terms. The board is just getting that effort started, and we expect that will grow into more of a community effort. So this first year under the agreement has been productive. We've learned a lot, but also made some pretty significant strides toward opening a community resilience center. Just as we suspected when we proposed, just by designating the facility as a community resilience center, that can provide a variety of resources for our community. We have unlocked several funding opportunities and other resources, many of which require some type of application or proposal for sure, but still resources that may not have been otherwise available. We thank you for this opportunity to provide this update. We thank you for your ongoing support and trust in Rebuild Bay County, and happy to take any questions or feedback.
Yep. Board members, any questions for Ms. Pilson or any comments regards to this project?
Yes. Can you go back to your tenants?
Sure.
So do you seek them out, or do they come to you?
So those tenants were already in place. Most of those tenants were already in place when we signed the management agreement. We've added 2 tenants, and that's because of the space that they were requesting. It just made sense.
Okay. And the programs that you want to add, where there's space obviously in the school for that, and where does that money come from? The grants from United Way? How does that work?
Right, so we've been able to apply for programming grants, and we would add those programmings based on the funds and the organizations that can provide those services or those programs. So Rebuild Bay does not provide the services. So for example, so like workforce development, that's not something that Rebuild Bay will provide, but we are looking at, from that facility, opening up the space so that that type of program can come in. So in some cases, we expect that those organizations or entities that will provide that programming can come in with their own funds, but it just depends. If it's what we've seen is, so we've looked at partnership with like Haney, Gulf Coast, and they're wanting to kind of expand their services where the location might be a place where some of their students can come in and take some of their classes. In that case, we would not fund the programming. They would have their own funding, but we will provide the space for that.
I like that idea. Okay.
And so that would be a mix, right? So that's one case. We may have some nonprofits that may want to provide a program that as an organization try to provide access to resources. If there are organizations that need some assistance with that, and we can include that type of programming in a grant opportunity and then bring that organization in to perform that, then we would do that as well.
You've been busy.
I have been very busy.
Thanks for work.
I've been very busy. Thank you.
Do we get, as the landlord, are we getting updates per year from this, or is this in the contract, or just whenever we feel like it? What's the?
So this is our first year.
Yeah.
And that is, we do keep the CRA staff informed and can certainly do regular updates.
Sure. This was awesome.
I like to brag on what we're doing at the facility.
Yeah.
How often? Quarterly, Mr. Chairman?
Whatever, it's up to you. I mean, once a year, I thought.
Okay, I think once a year is reasonable, and like I said, we get periodic updates. I mean, we're in regular communication with them, and I know Board Member Lucas is as well, so.
And I'll go back to the language in the agreement and see, I know it does say something about updates, I just don't remember offhand what the frequency is. But I think we do have some language in there.
Review or something like that in the
Yeah, and can we put this presentation like on the website somewhere?
Absolutely, yep.
Sure.
So thank you for all that you've done, and it's only been, 6 or 7 months? Certainly like the direction that the bottom line is going, income going up, outgo going down. So, thank you.
Yep. Any other board members have any questions or comments? All right, thank you, Ms. Filson. Oh,
I guess I'm nobody.
I looked right at you. You hesitated, sir. So
I'm the fastest mover up here, right? So
no comment.
Yeah. So thank you for presenting this. Thank you for giving us the update. One of the things that was kind of sticking out in my mind, and I was trying to find more information on it, was that United Way with other cities has had certain partnerships. It seems like some of the tenants that you have service homelessness, right? And I know that that's something that needs to be serviced even more here in Bay County. But I do know that United Way does have programs in other cities where they work with housing partners and act as not just a financial fund, or financial funnel, but also just a resource funnel too. I'm not sure, I don't know the local United Way folks here probably as well as you do. I don't know if any of that has been explored, so.
Yeah, so definitely strengthening our relationship with United Way in services and meeting the needs. Now, on site, one of the tenants is Doorways, and Doorways is the lead for our area as the lead of the continuum of care. They are the lead for the homeless population, and so that's another reason why we see quite a few of that population that actually comes to the center. So they do have those type of programs. We are working with them with that as well, and just trying to see how we work more with them, not necessarily looking at using the facility as more than a service type facility. So it's
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't, to correct anybody who might think otherwise, I was not suggesting that it be a homeless shelter.
Other than in emergency situations where we open up a shelter, right?
That's different. That's open to all, right? But I was more looking at it as if you get second chance there, and I'm not saying that it needs to be a homeless shelter. That's not what I'm presenting. I'm just saying there may be some synergies there with United Way to open up even more funding.
Sure. We actually so having them on site actually gives us a better opportunity to kind of gauge the need, right? So we're seeing that on a daily. One of the things that Rebuild Bay is doing to address the affordable housing and to address that need is actually about 3 weeks ago, we just cut the ribbon on a transition home. And so that's in a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, where we were able to purchase that house from them and provide a place for folks to kind of recover up to about 6 months. And so we just put our first client in on yesterday, so we're super proud about that. But for this area, one of the things we've identified is that we do have a shortage of transitional homes, and so we take that fairly seriously as an organization, and we're trying to get at that. So whether that's partnering with United Way, Doorways, Lead Coalition, Habitat for Humanity, we're trying to figure out ways to get to it. When we are Rebuild Bay is writing for grants, we are looking at that as well.
And to answer your question.
Say it again?
Are they paying to live in this house?
So we have, those that would go in would be program participants for us. And there is a program participant fee that does cover some of the expenses, but is nothing close to what they would pay for a more permanent solution.
So to your point about the bigger need, United Way, Rebuild Bay, Lead Coalition, and others have been working with the Rescue Mission under their leadership.
Right.
They actually have a building that they would like to see turned into a shelter. However, they have made it clear that they don't want to be the organization to run it solely. So been working to put our heads together to get funding to open that very much needed shelter.
Good to know. Thank you.
Right, and actually, and I'll just, since you pulled us into it, we pulled a group of folks together around that effort to strategize what that might look like and what that campaign to be able to raise funds might look like. In their grant proposal, we support that as well because we have been able to provide some of the data from Doorways as well as what we've seen at the emergency shelter.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. No problem.
All right, thank you, Ms. Pilson. All right, item number 8 is consideration and approval to sell CRA-owned property located at 551 East 6th Street, parcel number 20387-000-000 in the downtown North District. Relevant background information is included in your packet. Staff recommends approval of the public notice for the subsequent sale of the CRA-owned parcel located at 551 East 6th Street, parcel number 20387-000-000, situated within the downtown North CRA District. The sale of this parcel is intended to support strategic redevelopment goals as well as provide revenue for the district. Staff would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Yes, please. We've been talking about, this board's been talking about getting rid of properties for a year or so, 2 years. And I think there's a number of ways to look at it. I'd love to see a process for this across the board. Looking at this property, we could go sell it for market value and hope that something goes on there. And the person sits on it for 10 years and nothing happens, or we incentivize it. And I'd love to see more investment in those areas that are harder to get investment, that create ripple effects of other people doing things. And so I'd love to see this property go to someone who's going to put it back on the tax roll, that would build something awesome and get them to open a new business.
How would you incentivize it?
Because this is CRA property, we're required to notice the sale or disposal of an asset for 30 days. So part of that notice, we are going to include that they have a plan that, lays out how they're going to further the CRA plans and objectives. So that we're not just selling it to sell it, but we're selling it for economic development purpose that aligns with the downtown north, in this case, CRA plan. Nevin, did I
Or the Dover Coal Plan.
add anything to that?
Yeah, so it's really a request for proposal. And in the proposal, it would be, what is your intended use of this property and how does it fit our CRA plan? And we would expect them to explain how that would fit. Also, we could, when this comes, the commission could say, well, we need you to implement whatever it is you say you're going to do it within 2 years, or the city has a right to reacquire the property for whatever you paid for it. So there is some mechanism to make sure it doesn't sit and it's not done. And then also in the proposal, they would be a price. So the price, it may be the highest price that you want to go with, but it doesn't need to be, but it does have to be a use pursuant to the CRA plan. And so that's something to consider.
But meet the setbacks of our code, right?
Yeah, anything that is done there would have to meet our setbacks, unless they come and get a variance or something. But it would be to acquire the property, what are you going to do, and also what can you do in compliance with our current codes.
Yes, which this does fall into the map that, we're just updated back in February for the downtown general district, I believe is downtown general district. So which encourages, developing closer to the road, parking in the rear, like the Dover Coal Plan. It encourages that. So the setbacks are a little different than what it used to be.
I'd like to see us delineate that language in the CRA plans that speaks specifically to economic development. as part of the RFA. Because if we leave it general, they may say, well, we're fitting the plan here, but it doesn't specifically address economic development.
We have not prepared the notice yet, but when we do prepare it, we can circulate it just so everyone sees it as far as what we would expect in a request for proposal.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this ties into why I want to have workshops so we can already start talking about this to have staff understand where we're going. We don't have to wait another 30 days. That's why I want to start workshopping ideas.
Right. Any other deliberation from the board? All right, we have a motion and a second to grant staff the approval to provide the public notice. And I'm sensing the sentiment is that we want to bring back some type of agreement that incentivizes development on this particular parcel. All right?
Well, in the notice, we say that, and then we're going to get
proposals. This is a request for proposals, basically. So, all right. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Hughes?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, item number 9 is a memo regarding the classification of 80 Harris as a registered historical site. This was one of the public comments that received earlier in the meeting. There has been a lot of discussion over this in regards to listing 80 Harris on the State or National Registry of Historic Places. I do believe that, and I will confirm this, Ms. Lewis Williams, I think maybe the person you've been talking to is Chuck Helmer. Does that sound right? Okay. Well, staff has been in contact with Mr. Chuck Helmer with the historical preservation. He's an architect, asking for his opinion on that. We continue to work through this. He's served on several historic grant panels in the past. Right now, at a minimum, we are proceeding with a historic plaque at this particular site. My goal is to have that in place by the end of the month. We obviously coordinate that with, with the board, specifically Ms. Lucas being in her ward and the public affairs team to promote that. But the memo in front of you, this is more about more of a formal process in designating the 80 Harris facility on the State or National Registry of Historic Places. It evaluates the benefits and the drawbacks to this. Staff recommendation and our conclusion after looking at that and comparing both the pros and the cons, we acknowledge it can offer valuable benefits, but it's our opinion that 80 Harris School is ineligible due to a lack of original structures and just a loss of the integrity of the structures over the years. Pursuing the listing would not be productive use of resources. Instead, again, efforts might be better directed towards local recognition, interpretive signage, or oral history projects that would honor the site's significance without requiring any type of formal designation that could have unintended consequences for the long-term options around that facility. So again, I do want to be clear, we do want to highlight the rich history of 80 Harris and the role that it played in our community, and highlight that with one of our historical plaques that you've seen around the community, and that's something that we really have the authority to do. However, this is just information that was brought back at the board's request. Happy to be a part of a conversation right now and take direction from the board on moving forward.
So historically, the site is where the Glenwood Elementary School was first purchased in 1927 after Millville and Panama City merged. The African-American leaders in Shinetown, which is what Glenwood was called at that time, secured Rosenwald funds to build a 2-room schoolhouse for Black students. Renamed Glenwood Elementary in 1950, the school served grades 1 through 6 and became a cornerstone of education and pride in the Glenwood neighborhood. That original building was moved to the current Rosenwald site and has since been destroyed. So the site at 80 Harris evolved into the 6th grade center and later 80 Harris High School. Upon the school district's decision to make that school a surplus property, an organization was formed, the 80 Harris Improvement Society, and for a number of years worked to make the 80 Harris Learning Village a reality. The CRA then assumed control of the property, and that's what brings us to this day. So I think that I'd like to see us move forward, not only with a local marker, but pursuing the state designation in the way that it has been pursued at the Rosenwald site, and also to continue meetings so that we can come to a meeting of the minds as to the eligibility of the site.
Does anything that Mrs. Pilson's doing, if this designation, does it hurt it from expanding or doing the services that she's doing now?
That is a question that would need to be
Okay.
answered. As I, in my layman's understanding of it, it would not.
Okay.
Because you're asking for the site to be recognized, not the building.
At this point, the report coming back from our staff needs to be fleshed out to better understand how to move forward if we were to have the buildings pursued as historical buildings. That's a separate designation.
I own a home on the National Register and the Sap House. And I thought it would just open up doors of just, 3 windows and nothing. It basically just keeps you, if you want to keep that designation, you can't change things. And so once you get on the National Register, it kind of locks you. If you want to keep the, it's like when the presidential award, when you're in PE in 6th grade, there's no real thing behind it. I would love to see lots of buildings on the National Register. I know Nancy would too. But it doesn't really, from what I've seen, open up major doors of opportunity.
More restriction.
More restrictions of what you, so if we wanted to add another building there, they would say, no, it doesn't match, or you have to apply for it to match, to look like what was there previously. So I personally was kind of disappointed in the whole National Register process.
What about, you said the site?
It's a historical site,
Right.
yes.
So that being a historical site and the building's not, that doesn't mess with expansion, right?
Ooh, that I don't know.
Okay.
I think we would need
Wouldn't
to,
lock our hands
Yeah.
with being able to move forward. It sounds like they're doing a lot of good. I went to Andy Harris, loved it. It was a wonderful school, and I went do what we can to help. But I don't want to put restrictions on there that we can't move forward and say, well, we made a decision a couple years ago,
Would you like staff to look at the difference between a historical site versus a historic buildings? If
Yes.
that is a distinction? Okay.
yep, we can do that. And again, I think, I can't imagine there being an objection, but we still plan to proceed with the historical plaque, in my mind, as soon as possible. I mean, that's something the city can do. We do that all over the city already, and I would encourage that, both at A.D. Harris and at Rosenwald.
Are you wanting us to vote on this?
Really, it's just a memo.
Well,
You're looking for a motion? Are we motioning?
I'm sorry, what was the question, Board Member Granger?
How are we moving forward?
so the process for a local historical marker does not require a vote of this board to move forward on it. To pursue the state registration marker, which is similar to what is at Rosenwald, we can vote to do that. That does not hamper or tie the owner's abilities to do something with the site or the properties, and to pursue fleshing out the determination with community about the buildings as as National Historic Building.
At the state level, I think what you were looking, and then comparing buildings versus the site. And I think that's what we want to understand is what impact, if we recognize the site, what impact that might have on the building. I think that's what we need to get clarity on. That's my understanding.
I don't think there's going to be any, with the state marker, like what we have at Rosenwald, there's no bearing on what the school district can do with that building facility. So I think as a next step, that's a natural next step to take. And then to look into the building designations as it has come back to us. Our staff recommendation is that the buildings don't qualify. So the state, Ms. Brenda Lewis Williams has said she has something different. So we can at least pursue that conversation, to have a meeting of the minds there, but to move forward with the state marker and the local marker.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you need a motion?
I think that'd be appropriate, specifically for the, to engage with the state. Yes. Now, the local marker, staff has the authority to do that, but we would do that in coordination with the community and with the appropriate board member. But I think to go more, more formal with the state, and that's a slightly more involved process, I think a motion would be appropriate.
So moved.
There a second?
Pursuing the state as
Second.
local market.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Zimmerman, I think you're seeking clarification on something, sir.
It's my understanding that we'll also report back on the issues that you raised, Commissioner, as
Yep.
far as the.
Buildings
state.
versus the site.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, any further discussion? All right, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Hughes?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes. Got ahead of myself.
All good, ma'am. All right, item number 10 is a memo to update the board on the 15th Street and MLK Boulevard development. We have a slide here, just number one. This was at the direction of the commission and the board. We're going to have public meetings this Thursday, June 5th, from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. We'll be meeting with the community to discuss this, the proposed development of the southwest intersection of 15th Street and MLK Junior Boulevard. That'll be, again, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Glenwood Community Center. We provided just this memo to give an update on the ongoing discussions. This is following the CRE's board vote on April 15th of this year, authorizing staff to enter negotiations with the Sankofa Group. We've been having biweekly meetings between CRE staff and representatives of Sankofa, as well as the legal team, to advance towards a development agreement. We've been focusing on project scope, timelines, design considerations, and the community alignment. Again, one of the directions was to have a community meeting, so we will do that. We remain very optimistic that a complete development agreement will be ready for the board's consideration at either the July or maybe the August CRA board meeting. So again, public meeting this coming Thursday, and staff would entertain any questions from the board, but no voting action or motion on this particular item, just an update. Ms. Waldron, anything to add? Okay. Staff, anything to add? All right.
So I just want to thank staff and city management for moving forward with the discussions and negotiations. This is exciting for our community. It is a proposal, and we are going through the stages of doing our due diligence, not only legally and through our planning department, but also with our community as we have promised.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board or questions regarding this item? All right, seeing none, moving on to item number 11. Item number 11 is discussion and consideration of the expansion of the CRA districts. This memo outlines the legal and procedural steps required to expand an existing community redevelopment area within the state of Florida pursuant to Chapter 163, Part 3 of the Florida statutes. The relevant background information and expansion process overview was provided in your packet. Conclusion, expanding a CRA is a complex multi-step process requiring legal diligence, stakeholder engagement, and adherence to state statutes. Proper planning and documentation will ensure legally sound and publicly supported expansion effort. As the board knows, we just completed this with an expansion of the St. Andrews CRA. At the time that we considered and approved that, there was a question kind of at the last minute about maybe possibly further expanding the St. Andrews CRA. I think a little bit further to the north at Board Member Street's discussion, a little bit further to the east at Commissioner Lucas's discussion and request. And we were informed that if we did that, it would potentially delay that. And so we decided prior to proceed with approving that, and the county went on to approve it, and that's now in place. So if there was a desire to further expand the St. Andrews CRA, and also have had conversations with Board Member Lucas and Chairman Branch about expanding possibly the Millville CRA as well, but we could do that, and staff could, at your direction, start that process. So, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yes, I'd love to see, thank you. I'd love to see the, from 7th Street to 11th Street expanded. That's mostly in Janus, with Janus's support. And then potentially from, where's that line, is it? Basically filling that gap. It's kind of like a dog leg left, right, is what I call it. But expanding her district for more opportunities.
Going just north, but not going east?
I'd love to see, so this is the gap right there, and that's
Yeah,
what I'd love to see.
7th to 11th, basically, that
East
North Millville.
Is East Avenue.
Is East Avenue, right?
Where the city,
So,
no, is it Everett?
It's Everett Avenue.
Everett Avenue,
Yeah.
where the city limit is.
on the east end is Everett, yes.
So that's a little island that is not benefited, although it has the same demographics, geography, socioeconomic status as what is in the Millville district. So.
Anything else, Tyler?
Nope, I think that's good.
Mr. Hayes, I'd just like to add, we are still currently in the process of updating as you go through the process of expanding a CRA district. Like we did just get approved for St. Andrews to expand. The next is to then update your CRA plan to include that new expanded area. So staff is currently reviewing our draft plans, which we were also in the process of updating all 4 plans. So we did the expansion for St. Andrews and then also are updating all 4 districts' plans, utilizing our Dover Cole neighborhood plans as our guide for those. So we're reviewing those now and should have those to the board for final approval. But if we were to want to expand more, then we would have to then amend our plans. I just want to be clear. So that way we can include that expanded area in the plans and spend money on those areas.
And it's also my understanding, just so the board knows, so the process, if we were to, if y'all were to vote to direct us to initiate the expansion in both St. Andrews and also Millville, it's about a 9 to 12 month process. So if we hit go today, you're probably looking at next spring before we bring that recommendation back to look at further expansion.
And would that recommendation include potentially either calling this a new district or expanding north over or Millville up and then even within this, I don't know if the cost beyond the adjusting the CRA plans, is there a cost for these studies that we are approving?
There's definitely a study, a
Yeah,
cost.
there's a finding of necessity study that is first done and we'll define the area and we can work with each of the board members to determine and then bring back maybe the expanded, an expanded map that y'all could agree on or approve, and then we would initiate the finding of necessity for that area. And that's the first step really, is to do that study to determine if it's eligible for expansion.
So in our
That's
motion
Who
today,
does that study?
We usually, no, we hire it out. We've been using GAI Consulting to do that study for us.
So, yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily suggest creating a new CRA district. That's a really good question, Mr. Chairman. My inclination would be no, it would be better to expand the existing CRA districts that we have. It's at least for sure the one in Millville. I don't know, yes, I agree the one in St. Andrews is getting much bigger, but if you look at downtown north, I mean, it's pretty big. It goes from downtown all the way up to, all the way up to the Panama City Mall and that side. And, both Board Member Lucas and Board Member Hughes share some of that property. So I do know we want to try to go a little bit further north on the kind of to the east of Lisenby, which would allow Board Member Granger to have a little bit of a CRA area because he has none. And so,
Just a little bit of
yeah, so he's the only board member without any CRA in his side of his city ward. So
that's because the property values are higher there. There's no blight.
she's not wrong. So I don't know if y'all know the answer to that. If there's, I mean, I don't think we would want to create another one. Yeah, I think we just would extend both of them. And so I know we've had some conversations with Board Member Lucas and Board Member Street about kind of moving north and moving kind of east out of St. Andrews. And we've also had conversations with Chairman Branch and Board Member Lucas about what to do over in Millville. So I think that's what we would proceed, just to expand those two.
I want to kind of just point out to the audience, those watching online and the new board members, that anytime we do anything with another government agency, generally speaking, we can't use our own staff to come up with the study. We have to hire somebody else.
Okay.
So
That is true. Thank you, sir.
So is this action just, we're going to come back with the cost analysis of like, oh, the study's going to cost, or is this, you're going to go right into doing it?
No, we would proceed. I mean, I think we would want to kind of look at the areas we're looking at and maybe get some buy-in on that. But, the board could authorize us to kind of work with the appropriate board member and side of their ward to put that forward. But I think we would want to be able to proceed with, if you guys give us that authorization to proceed with engaging with GAI on that.
And we will get a quote or a task
Yeah.
order to do the finding of necessity, of course, and then either include it in next year's budget or see if we can afford to do it in this year's budgets. Moving some projects around or, depending on the cost. But I don't think the cost of the finding of necessity is over $100,000. So to answer your question, that cost may not come back to this board to approve. But we can definitely work with y'all to determine the areas that y'all want to expand, and we can bring a map back for y'all's approval, and with the cost. And if we can fund it in this year's budget, or if we need to build it into next year's budget.
You may have to do both, depending on the funding.
Depending on the funding. I know doing our plan updates has cost quite a bit, but that's all 4 districts, and they haven't been updated in a while. But to do a plan amendment might not be as much. But the first step is that finding of necessity study, and I can't remember how much St. Andrews cost off the top of my head.
To do all of the updates and the expansion was right about 100.
Yeah.
So.
That was for St. Andrews,
Yes.
Well, no, that was the plan, the updating plans for all 4 districts.
which are split between the
And then just
4.
finding of
Correct.
necessity for St. Andrews.
Yep.
And do all the wards share the cost of that study, or does it come out of?
For the finding of necessity for St. Andrews, only St. Andrews paid for that. But to update the plans, that was split amongst all 4 because we're updating all 4 plans.
So when we sit up here, we have 4 different boards basically that have convened all at the same time because it's the same board members. That's how we kind of process through that. So depending on which one CRA may not have enough money to do both things, update, and so while one CRA may have to get span it across budget seasons, another one may be able to pay it in full. So, I mean, staff, as long as, like she said, the entirety of updating it was, and St. Andrews was less than $100,000, right?
No,
So-
it was like
Oh,
right there.
it was right at $100,000. So the point is that none of this should probably come back to us because that was shared by the 4, correct? The 100. So
Yeah, if there's consensus that y'all want us to at least do the finding of necessity and y'all support expanding it, then I would grant staff the authority to not come back so that we can proceed without delay. But if you'd like to take a look at the map, absolutely happy to submit to that as well.
So I would submit, I would move what you said first and include the bringing a map back for us all to sign off on.
second.
All right. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? All right. Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Hughes?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, item number 12 is discussion of the July and August CRA meetings. Board Member Branch is going to be unavailable for the first meeting in July and potentially the first meeting in August. And I will also be out the first week of August as well. And so we have a few options for the board to consider at this time. He has requested that we consider rescheduling them. We did look at July 15th here in the chambers at 4 p.m. That would be the third Tuesday. The challenge is the county uses some of this, and they have a planning board meeting, and the exact time of ending is kind of unknown, so it could be a bit of a challenge. Plus, you'll have a Destination Panama City board meeting that day. The other option is July 29th, which is the week prior. July has extra week in it, and so we could do that at Tuesday, July 29th at 4 p.m. Or, sorry, I don't know that that's a Tuesday. I believe that actually might be a Thursday. Is it? It is, sorry, correct, yep. Tuesday, July 29th at 4 p.m. Or if you want, we could also do it following the commission meeting of July 8th. That's a morning meeting. It begins at 8 a.m. We could finish the meeting and then immediately move into to the CRA board meeting with a short recess. I think the only advantage to the July 29th meeting is it does get us a little bit closer to that August timeframe. So anything that we might consider in August, we'll have more time to get it on the July 29th agenda. And then otherwise, if we do it on July 8th, we wouldn't have another meeting potentially until, until September.
So are you suggesting just one meeting?
Just one, yeah, collapsing the two into one is what we're suggesting. Either July 15th at 4 PM, July 29th at 4 PM, or following the commission meeting on July 8th. That meeting begins at 8 AM, and as soon as it would conclude, that would be good. I don't know if staff has any additional information on potential agenda items for August that would dictate waiting until later in July, or if we feel comfortable that first week in July would be, or second week in July would be fine.
I would recommend doing July 29th because we will need to bring the CRA budgets to the CRA board. And before they're heard in September with the city's budgets. So I would recommend July 29th if we're not going to have an August meeting.
Yep. Okay.
Well, should we move forward with July 29th for condensed meeting?
Is there a second?
Is that the one that's after the commission meeting?
No, that would be that would be the 5th week of July at 4 PM. July has an extra week this
My
week.
wife says yes, I can make a second.
Yes.
I'm like, is that the
All right.
right date?
All right. We ran the dates by your, checked, yeah. Any other comments or questions?
It'll be a 4 o'clock meeting?
It'd be at 4 PM, yes, sir. We try to keep all the CRA meetings at 4 PM for consistency. So, all right, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Hughes?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, item number 13 is a discussion on virtual workshops. Mr. Chairman?
Yes. I would like frequent virtual non-voting workshop meetings with limited staff, just for us to collaborate on ideas faster. And what I want to avoid is the situation that I felt being on that side of the oath, which is what Janice Lucas says, which is showing up to a meeting with the item on the finish line. And you wait 3 hours and then you go give your feedback and then they're like, well, it's kind of already on the finish line. And I'd love to get the shaping of ideas out to the public much sooner so they can give feedback much sooner in the process. One, for wisdom of our perspective, of getting more perspectives from the citizens, and us just helping staff know the direction we're wanting to go. So yeah, virtual Zoom, low cost, there'd be nothing to set up besides a Zoom call. But that's what I'd like to say. Maybe weekly, maybe every other week, something like that. But especially early in the sort of us all working together, getting to know each other, I'd like to see them more often. So that's the idea.
100% agree. What if you were IT challenged and Zoom is
Well, are you getting an iPad?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, there we go. We can get that set up for you.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And
Or Teams or whatever it's done.
information to the public on the front side.
Yeah.
That's our job.
Yeah.
What they do with it, spend it however they want to do it,
Yeah.
but we've given them an opportunity, and that's what we're supposed to do is listen. And I think it's a great idea.
Are you open to hybrid meetings?
Sure.
Where it's virtual, but for those who are IT challenged, they could come to a designated place and participate as well.
Board Member Hughes can join me in my office for these meetings. I'll take care of you, sir.
It's like one of the principles office.
Yeah, well, even for me, virtual keeps us from having to drive here. It's an hour savings of just time. And so, yeah, whatever you're comfortable doing, I'm comfortable on Zoom or in person, doesn't matter. But the idea of just meeting more often,
And it's the intent that we give kind of an update on upcoming ideas and projects, or listen and, hey, I want this, or both.
I think it's a variety of both. We're all kind of learning. We're all learning the positions, especially you and I, of the feedback loops and ideas. And maybe you come. I'm a Google document person. I have to write everything down. I have to see it, and I have to digest it. And so, for me, a lot of times I'll start off with an idea of a Google document. I'll say, "What do you think about this?" And not that these are non-voting meetings, but maybe it's, "Hey, next time we meet, give me notes on this." Or something like that, just so where we're able to. I need time to digest a thought too. So yeah, having things in writing and time to discuss it is important to me.
So I would just suggest that maybe we look at keeping them constrained to the different boards on which we sit. Because conversation can very easily drift to, say, TPC, or if we're doing this with the commission hat on, could drift into CRA, and sometimes that happens, and it probably will continue to happen. But I think for the public's benefit, it would be best to say, okay, this workshop's going to be focused on CRA things. And then this other workshop's going to be focused on commission things.
And I'm fine with you, and I think we mentioned publishing an agenda, because workshops are not, you're not voting, so it's not required. You may go, I don't care anything about playgrounds for under 5-year-olds, and you might not want to attend, but, so to me, it's casual meetings, more often short, based on the set of topics that don't wander. Yeah, I can't collaborate for 12 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for frequent, short meetings.
Yeah.
I would also request that they be in the evenings.
Yes.
After 4.
Sure.
I work.
Work, what's that? I haven't done that since December.
Since January.
So, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think it'd be appropriate for the attorney to kind of weigh in on some of that. I know we want to obviously want to follow state law and be careful not to create public records in the workshop because it is not considered an official meeting. So.
Well, it's a meeting. It's just no official action.
That's what I mean,
that will be
official
taken.
meeting action.
So I get the sense that what we're talking about here is a free flow back and forth between commissioners, CRA board members, and then the public. And so information will be given, you'll take feedback. It would be noticed that it is a workshop only, no vote will be taken. And so if you have that type of meeting, it is important that it's noticed. The public has an opportunity to view it, to watch it. If you want them to participate, then that's obviously something that we would do. Since it's not a meeting that action's going to be taken on, it's not critical that, all the commissioners could be virtual. It's what you can't do virtually today, you could during COVID, but you can't vote virtually. But you can certainly participate virtually. So, and it could be virtual, and you could have one station in room 10 at City Hall or something. So we could kind of sketch through an idea, some proposal, and some ideas on how to do it. And I'm sure City Manager Hayes will get back with a memo on that with our input.
Great idea.
Yep, thank you. You're already mayoring in your chairman role for the CRA. I support this. I support the opportunity for us to come together with citizens and have the dialogues. I would suggest frameworks for structure so that we don't have meetings that become deteriorating, but versus uplifting. And when I say uplifting, I don't mean, everybody's all happy, but that we have done the work of getting to a point of agreement, common ground for moving forward. And so sometimes that can be a little tense, but that we have a framework to work through that.
I would also suggest that from a technical standpoint, when you have a hybrid meeting, those in the room, when two people are talking at the same time online, you cannot hear what is being said. It is because both things gets transmitted. You don't have the luxury of regular hearing, so it just becomes a big jumble. Which is why I stopped doing all things virtual and started coming to all the meetings, because when you're watching online, you can't hear what people are saying because people are talking at the same time. So that would need to be controlled.
So part of this, could we set a meeting date at the first meeting?
Go ahead.
Let's put some pedal.
Sure. Are we wanting to do one by the end of the month?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'll take like next week.
Yeah, I'm down.
And I can do it virtually from Rome next week.
Yeah, exactly. Rome, Georgia's beautiful.
Rome, Georgia.
I mean, we could do one June 11th. That's a Wednesday at 4 p.m.
I can do that.
And is this the CRA?
Is there where is that beeping coming from?
Is it just reasonable notice, Nevin?
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
Does anybody see a conflict with June 11th at 4 p.m.? So I just want to be clear, though, it sounds like that would not be a broadly publicized meeting, but we would record it and then make it available after the fact.
It would need to be noticed.
I don't know if legal can get that done by tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. Yeah, Mr. Zimmerman, I believe the belief up
The
here.
CRA has a different notice requirements. It's 7 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
let me ask a question, though. I believe there has been some research done that if it truly is a workshop where no voting will be taking place, where no money will be expended, that there is flexibility in the state of Florida for that. I think that's what you're suggesting, Mr. Chairman?
For CRAs as well.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think we can proceed and then have Mr. Zimmerman check.
Okay.
And if for some reason he has a concern, I know he will.
For city
he will raise
commission,
that.
it's not an
So,
issue at all. It's plenty of notice.
I think
CRA is a little
yeah,
different.
Yeah, the issue is that there are lots of other cities that are doing this from Pensacola to Key West with, again, and it's a workshop. It's not a meeting. And so it is a little bit different. No decisions are made, conversations are had, and then the meeting is recorded and made public.
And flip it to a commission workshop instead of a CRA workshop.
We can do that as well, but then to your point though, but some CRA issues might be discussed. So
Well,
I'd
that
still,
happens
want to make sure, just to affirm, to have, trust but verify. I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Will there be a topic or?
I can provide topics.
Okay.
And what time?
It would be 4 PM on June 11th, so.
Yeah, I can give you topics. Do you want them now?
Well, do we need to notice the topics? I don't.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted it
I
to
think-
be structured.
Yeah.
Or do we need an agenda?
I think I would say that I think the first meeting like this is not going to be very structured. I think we need to manage expectations and be real. It's going to be
Open the
it's the
meeting.
first time we've done it. So,
Free discussion.
Yeah.
Adjournment.
yeah, so
figure it
that's it. That's the agenda. Yeah. Start, discuss, adjourn. So, but you don't really have a formal adjournment though with a workshop, just to be clear,
Yeah, 'cause then you'd have to vote.
because then you have to vote.
Yeah.
So.
I do think we ought to notice something that states what the meeting is, so that people don't show up wanting to talk about items that are not under the authority of the CRA.
I think there's nowhere to show up to.
Yeah.
I think that's
Well, virtual is showing up. I mean, you've heard of Beam Me Up, Scotty.
right.
Yeah, the public's going to be asked to talk, is my understanding, in this first workshop. I mean,
No, this is for the elected officials.
oh, I thought you
Yeah.
were,
No, this is a workshop for the elected officials. And there are examples of cities from Pensacola to Key West that have been doing this.
Going to be able to.
no, I understand. Okay,
No.
let's get it
Yeah,
straight.
yeah.
I understand about having workshops without public participation. That is okay legally. However, I thought I heard, is that the intent for this one, or was the intent? So the intent wasn't to get free information from the public. The intent is just for the five of you to talk and then to allow people to watch.
Yeah, I think this is between us. It's obviously the citizen can show up and watch virtually or watch it later. But this is us talking to then seed conversation for the public to then come back to us via email or phone calls.
Okay.
This is the start of an idea.
Yeah, that's what you and I had talked about, but then I didn't understand when you introduced it, that's where you were heading. So just to be clear, the concept is to have the five of you talk to staff, find out whatever you want to talk, it's talk, but then the public watches, but does not participate at that particular workshop.
Correct.
Okay. So I have a better understanding. My statements were made in reference to public being able to speak.
Yeah, what I don't want is an early idea getting beat up by the public because we haven't even done the research.
Right.
Because it may be, here's an idea and you go, oh my gosh, I haven't done any research on this. But here's my initial reaction. And
Because we don't have an opportunity to speak to each other outside of a formal notice to meeting.
Or workshop.
So, so do we feel like, Mr. Hayes, if they give you ideas on what would you like us to know, have you five know what you're thinking about talking about, or just notice it and then come and have a free flow of back and forth?
I think the first one would probably be best to just have a free flow.
Okay?
I would agree with that.
That'll be easy to notice. Okay?
So June 11th, is that what I'm hearing? Do we need a motion for that?
We would.
Sure, I'll make a motion that we have a virtual workshop on June 11th at 4 PM.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. And with the understanding, if Mr. Zimmerman goes and finds any legal concerns, we'll circle back post haste. So, all right. Is there any further discussion from the board? All right, Ms. Sagehorn, call the roll.
Board Member Hughes?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Item number 14 was added by Board Member Granger to discuss a letter to the TDC. Mr. Granger?
Yeah, so we, as Ms. Hudson said earlier, you can't hear me? Sorry. How about now?
There we go.
Okay. We don't have speakers back here, so being that Drews Hall is inside of a CRA, being that it is a historical building, being that DPC is requesting the TDC to help fund the repairs to that building so that it can become a functional draw for tourism and locals alike. It become event space, it can become a mini museum and an art draw, if you will, become a functional building again for that neighborhood that is in a CRA area. I feel that it would be right and proper for this board to support that in a letter to the TDC. And so my idea is that if we agree to that staff then could write a letter of support as such and allow our chairman to sign it as representative of the rest of the board to be given to the TDC in support of.
All right. Is there a second to proceed with his motion to discuss?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. I will say I did meet with Ms. Vigil today and shared with her our conversation, Mr. Granger, about this, and I think she's overall appreciative and supportive of it, but did ask that we maybe pause just a minute to get some language that we could specifically make an ask, so that we're making a specific ask of the TDC rather than just general support, because they can support it just with a resolution or verbally. So I think there's a desire to get a specific ask. So I think I would just ask in the deliberation and the motion is that, we, be directed to coordinate that, the verbiage for that with Ms. Vigil prior to submitting it on behalf of the CRA board.
I will modify my motion to include the cooperation and collaboration with DPC to determine what the specific ask should be.
Does your second still stand, Mr. Branch? All right.
Yes.
Any other discussion from the board? All right, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Hayes?
I'm not
Hughes,
a
excuse
board
me.
member.
Sorry, my bad. Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. If there are no other items for the good of the order from the board, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
all right, there we go. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll, Ms. Sagehorn.
Board Member Hughes?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Our meeting is adjourned.
You already ready.